Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Books Beside My Bed video. Before we get started, I am again going to apologise for the lighting. I did try to set up both of my lights, but I kept getting weird lines across the screen, so I need to sort out some new globes, I think. I'm not 100% sure whether there are going to be 3 videos put out this week on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. I'm really behind and I need to start getting a head start on my reports, so I need to prioritise my time a little bit, and if I don't have videos up, that's why, so please don't worry or think that I've forgotten. I'm just trying to schedule in my time. I did get my hair done, so I'm sort of getting used to the length and the colour, but I'm really happy with it, and I think that's about it. For those of you who want to know what I've been watching this week, I re-watched Black Panther because it was released on iTunes, so I've seen that for a second time, and I'm still watching bits and pieces of Planet Earth 2. I just sort of watch an episode here or there. Now on to bookish things. This was my reading week from the 13th to the 19th of May. I read 5 books, 1,888 pages, and I am up to 84 books for the year. I think it's 84. The first book that I read this week was The Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J Maas. This is obviously the novella that sits between the A Court of Thorns and Roses series and whatever the new series is. This was published this year in 2018 by Bloomsbury, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Let's be honest, there was not a whole lot of substance in this particular novella. It's nice to go back to that world to see these characters and to sort of get this slice of life moment peek into what's going on post A Court of Wings and Ruin, but yeah, there's not a huge amount of plot in this book. It's really just day-to-day and more of Feyre and Rhys's relationship, which is fine. This isn't really a gripe, but one of the things that was really interesting about this book was that we get first-person perspectives from Feyre and Rhys in this book, but we get third-person perspectives for Mor and Cassian. And then I'm sitting here going, so where are my perspectives from Azriel and Amren? Because they're my favourites and they're not in here. But that's a minor gripe and that's completely personal. Yeah, not sure what to make of it. I mean, it was fun and it was nice to see the characters again. Still don't really like Nesta very much at all, and apparently the next series is going to be all about her. So I don't know if I'm going to continue. I will wait and see what reviews come out of that. But if you are a diehard fan of this particular series, definitely read it. It's not a terrible book by any means. I just didn't get anything new from it. Then I read Lifelike by Kristoff. This is his new young adult release, and it was released this year by Allen and Unwin. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really wanted to give it 5 stars, but something was just lacking for me, and I'm not 100% sure what it is just yet, but you know when you just get that feeling that something was not there. This is the story of Eve. She lives on an island junkyard and participates in regular bouts of robot fights. She lives with her grandfather and she has a best friend called Lemon Fresh who is awesome, and there are really awesome moments of female friendship in here, so that's a big plus. And then one day she stumbles across the apparently out of commission body of a Logica or a lifelike. So they were basically androids with their own artificial intelligence and the ability to think for themselves. And they're highly illegal, but she came across this out of commission one and she takes it back, and suddenly it comes back to life, and suddenly she finds herself thrown into a world that she had no idea even existed. As I said, this is full of fabulous female friendships. Eve is a really great, strong character. The world is really interesting and engaging. It is a dystopian, but it's an interesting dystopian, and it's not quite something I've read before. There's lots of hilarious banter. There's some really cool robots and artificial intelligence stuff going on. There are some really interesting angel references. I want to say biblical, but that's not quite biblical in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of angel references, which I wasn't expecting and I completely appreciate. There is a romance in here, which is a bit odd, and I think that's probably the thing that I have the most issues with, but I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I couldn't put it down once I started it, and I would highly recommend it. I should also say that this was the May pick for the name of the book club as well. Then I read my YA Room book club pick, and that was I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman, and this is a young adult contemporary book, and it was published this year by HarperCollins. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is the story of Angel, who is in a fandom for a very popular band called The Ark. She is going to one of their concerts for the very first time, and she's participating in a meet and greet, and she is so excited. She's highly engaged in their fandom. And the second perspective is told from Jimmy's point of view, and Jimmy is a member of the ARC and he suffers from quite a bit of anxiety. Angel lives for this band and you can tell her whole world revolves around it, and it's about her meeting Jimmy and the other members of the band, and I think coming to realize that just because you're in a fandom and your whole world revolves around this particular fandom, not everything is quite what it seems. I really liked this book for the aspects of fandom that it does discuss, because there are people who get so involved into different fandoms that you almost can't separate the fact from the fiction, or you don't want to separate the fact from the fiction, and I think that's probably the key part. I struggled with this one a little bit because even though I can understand and appreciate the fandom aspect, I personally struggle with fandoms that revolve around real people. All of the fandoms and all of the ways that I engage with fandoms, they're all around fictional characters or fictional worlds. And I've always been very uncomfortable with sort of this amount of adoration for real life people. And that's just part of my personality. So it's not saying that it's right or wrong. It's just that something that I don't feel comfortable with. And so aspects of this made me incredibly uncomfortable to read. But it was very well told. Alice Oseman writes a beautiful story. And the characters are really well fleshed out, and I can definitely highly recommend this one. Then I read This Mortal Coil by Emily Savada. This was published in 2017 by Simon & Schuster. It is a young adult science fiction story. It is written by an Australian author living in the US, so I'm claiming it as Love by A. It is blurred by Amy Kaufman, and I really, really enjoyed it. In This Mortal Coil, our main character Katerina lives in a world where everyone has the ability to hack their own DNA. From birth, they are implanted with technology that will allow them to download apps and thus help keep them healthy and safe and prevent illness and disease. They can modify hair color and accelerate healing and all of that sort of thing. Her father is a legendary geneticist, and when there is an outbreak of a virus that causes people to become very, very ill, die and spread the infection quite quickly, he is taken in by one of the large corporations that control the gene hacking technology. He warns her not to get involved with them, and so she is not taken, and she lives her life outside trying to find ways to prevent herself from becoming infected herself. Meanwhile, the rest of the world has taken shelter in bunkers, except for a few people who have decided that they won't go into the shelters because they don't think that the corporation is doing the right thing. And eventually Kat has to become involved because her father has died, but he's developed a cure for the vaccine, but nobody knows what it is because it was encoded and he died before they could distribute it. This was super fascinating, and it was totally up my alley with all of the talk about gene hacking and gene sequencing and all that sort of thing. I just find that stuff really, really fascinating, and the world itself was quite engaging. There are some really interesting characters. I think Eve was really strong as a main character, and I think there was enough twists and turns, even though some of them were quite predictable, there were enough twists and turns that I had to read right through to the end and find out what was going on. So this one I gave 4.5 out of 5 stars. And the last book that I read this week was Alpha by Jazz Ocado. It is the third and final book in the Infinity Division series. I read it on my Kindle and I received it for review from NetGalley, so thank you very much to them. And I think I'm participating in a blog tour for it in July. It is a 2018 release from Entangled Teen, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The series itself is quite interesting, and I regret not rereading some of the other material beforehand because it took me a second to get back into the flow. The one thing that these book series do really well is that each book is told from the perspective of 2 different characters. So by the third book, there are 6 main characters in play, and we have gotten perspectives from all of them. The Infinity Division trilogy is all about a group of teens who are able to travel between parallel worlds, parallel Earths, and in particular, a particular place on Earth. So they always end up in different versions of this particular town. All of these characters, no matter what Earth they're on, they seem to find one another. Sometimes some of the characters are constantly turning up dead. Others are trying to track down one of the characters who committed a crime on one version of Earth and keep skipping through to try and find the person that they loved in other Earths. So it's sort of a really complex sort of story, and I can't really talk much about the plot for the third book because it's the third book in the series, and if you haven't read the other ones, it's sort of not going to make too much sense. But it is really interesting. While I don't think it's the most sophisticated young adult book series out there, it is definitely an engaging one. Everything wrapped up very neatly in the end, and that's completely fine. And you know, I enjoy a series that wraps up after 3 books because it just makes my heart happy that there is a conclusion and that I'm not having to wait for more books to come out. So that's my reading wrap up. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books and your thoughts on them. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.